a get-together. We don't really need you there. That's what my mom said when I asked about my brother's engagement party. Not can't come. Not limited seats. Just don't need you. I stared at my phone, the text glowing like a slap to the face. My name is Emery Wren, I'm 28. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. Because this isn't a story about missing a party. It's about realizing you were never invited to any of it. What happens when the people who raised you forget you were part of the story? I packed a small bag, booked a last-minute solo trip to the coast, and left without telling anyone where I was going. No goodbye. No drama. Just silence. For the first time in years, I slept in a bed that didn't have memories stitched into the walls. I walked barefoot along the shoreline. I ate breakfast alone in a tiny cafe where no one knew my name. And for the first time in forever, I felt peace. Until my phone started vibrating. One call, then 5, then 32. From Mom, from Dad, even from my brother's fiancé. Then the messages started flooding in. Please come back. Something happened. We need you. Emery, please pick up. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, unsure whether to be afraid or vindicated. And then one final message came in, this time from my cousin. They should have never treated you like that. Now they're begging you to come home. You need to see this. That's when I knew something went very wrong at the party I wasn't needed at. And whatever it was, it had just made me the most important person in the entire family. You said. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I stared out at the water, silver tides curling beneath a lavender sky, wondering how fast love turns into leverage. By noon, I had 26 missed calls. By 3 p.m., it was 57. And then a video came through. No caption. Just 12 seconds. In it, my mom was screaming. Not yelling, screaming. The phone was shaky, chaotic. Behind her, flames licked the sky. Guests were crying. My brother, Caleb, was bent over in a tux, throwing up beside a burning archway. My thumb hovered over the replay button. I knew that garden. It was the family estate, the one my parents kept saying they couldn't afford to maintain, right before they told me they were helping Caleb buy his second home. So the engagement party had been there. Big, lavish, full of sparkle. And it had gone up in flames. Literally. Still no explanation. Then came a voice memo from Dad, his voice rough like he'd aged 20 years in 10 hours. Please. Just call me. We're all at the hospital. It's about your brother. And the police, they're asking for you. Police? What could I possibly have to do with this? Unless, my jaw tightened. I remembered what I'd done 2 weeks ago. A signature. A form. A quiet legal document I'd submitted online in the middle of the night. They didn't know. No one did, not yet. And if I was right, then something they relied on, something huge, wasn't in their name anymore. It was in mine. Suddenly, my quiet solo trip didn't feel like an escape. It felt like a countdown. And they weren't calling me back for comfort. They were calling because they just realized I was holding the fuse. You said. By the time I pulled into the hospital parking lot, the sun had dipped beneath a haze of gray clouds. Inside, the waiting room looked like a funeral in slow motion. My mother, the woman who once told me I was too emotional for real family events, ran toward me like I was oxygen. Oh, thank God, she sobbed. Emery, we didn't know. We didn't know it was your name on the venue contract. There it was. The slip. The thing they were trying to avoid saying. I blinked at her, deadpan. You mean the contract I paid for? She faltered. Her lips trembled. I thought you were just helping with the paperwork. Because help is all I'm good for, right? Behind us, a nurse called out for a Dr. Feynman. Voices echoed. Machines beeped. But I stayed locked on my mother's face. The panic, the calculation. It wasn't guilt. It was fear. Because the truth was this. The venue they used for the engagement party? It was mine. I bought it 6 months ago under an LLC. Quietly. Legally. They thought I was playing entrepreneur. But while they planned sparkle-drenched parties, I'd been signing ownership papers with lawyers they didn't even know I hired. Which meant, the fire that broke out during Caleb's party? The liability was mine to report. And the insurance? Mine to claim. And any legal investigation? Also mine to answer for. Is Caleb okay? I finally asked. Mom nodded. Smoke inhalation. But there's talk of lawsuits. Guests are threatening to sue. We just need you to say you loaned the space. Stop. I pulled out a folder. Inside, proof of ownership, permits, fire inspection dates. This isn't a loan, I said. This is a reckoning. And that's when I saw it. Dad, standing behind her, pale as paper, because he knew exactly what was in that folder and what was coming next. My father didn't say a word, just stared at the folder in my hands like it held a detonator. It did. I sat down across from him, flipping the pages with deliberate silence. This, I said, tapping the permit copy, proves the venue is under my ownership as of 6 months ago. And this, I slid another paper across the table, is the invoice I sent your assistant 2 weeks before the party. Unpaid. He flinched. I thought we agreed you'd help cover. No. I cut in. You assumed I'd donate. Like always. Just like when you used my savings to float Caleb's first apartment. Or when Mom told the lawyer to remove my name from Grandma's estate. Or when Ezra borrowed my car and crashed it into a pole. I leaned forward. You've all mistaken my silence for generosity. Dad's hands curled. This isn't the time, Emery. Wrong, I said. It's exactly the time. From my bag, I pulled the final envelope, sealed and stamped. Inside, a legal cease and desist notice. You will not use my property for any future events. You will not reference me, my business, or my name in relation to the incident. And if I hear that you've spun this to shift blame, I looked him in the eye. I will sue for defamation. And I will win. His jaw locked. A red flush crept up his neck. But Caleb is your brother. He nearly died. You're punishing all of us. I stood. No. You punished yourselves. I just stopped playing along. And as I walked away, past the yard doors and into the late afternoon haze, I didn't look back. But I knew something had just shifted. The good daughter was gone. And in her place stood the woman they never thought I'd become. The one who finally said enough. The fallout began faster than I expected. That evening, I got a text from Ezra. Really? You're turning this into a lawsuit? Wow. No hello. No how are you. Just entitlement in full bloom. I didn't reply. Because while they scrambled to play damage control, I had quietly hired a PR firm. Not to make a statement, but to prevent one. The venue's reputation needed shielding. My name needed a firewall. And most importantly, their narrative needed silencing. By the next morning, I received an email. Hi, Emery. This is to confirm the incident was caused by faulty wiring brought in by an outside vendor your family hired. You are not liable. Best. Venue insurance rep. My lungs released a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. That fire? That disaster? It was on them. Fully. And the cherry on top? The vendor they used had been referred by Caleb's fiancé, the same one who called me a bitter career woman last Christmas. Now they were scrambling to cover their legal costs, medical expenses, and PR crisis, all while discovering they were not covered under my insurance policy. Because they weren't listed. Because they didn't ask. Because they assumed. Again. 2 days later, my father showed up at the cafe I sometimes worked from. He didn't order anything. Didn't sit. Just stood across from my table and said quietly, We're not bad people, Emery. We were just celebrating Caleb. We didn't mean to hurt you. I looked up from my laptop. You didn't mean to hurt me, Dad. You just didn't care if you did. He didn't respond. And this time I didn't give him space to. Because there's a difference between burning bridges and building a fire to keep yourself warm. By Friday, I'd done something I never imagined. I reopened the restaurant. Not for business. Not for guests. But for me. I lit a single candle in the center of Table 7, the table I'd reserved for my family during the grand opening. the same one that stayed empty. I sat down with a plate of lemon pasta, a glass of wine, and silence that tasted like healing. The door stayed locked. The music was soft jazz, the air was warm, and every flicker of the candle reminded me. They missed this. Not me. They chose to prioritize Ezra's job title over my life stream. And now? Ezra was trending on local news, not for a promotion, but for possible negligence. Turns out, one of the guests he invited to the engagement party had posted an Instagram story mid-fire, tagging the vendor, joking about skipping permits. The video went viral. My lawyer said I could have taken advantage of it, flipped the narrative entirely. But I didn't. I didn't need revenge. I needed space. That weekend, I posted a quiet update on my business page. To everyone who's ever been overlooked, unseen, or erased, this place is for you. We're reopening next Friday. Soft music. Real food. No fake smiles. Come as you are. Emery. The post exploded. Comments. Shares. Emails. People telling me how they'd been the black sheep, the forgotten sibling, the backup friend. People telling me they'd be there. And for the first time in years, I felt it. Not hope, not pride, but wholeness. Because sometimes the family you build from ashes is far more sacred than the one that tossed the match. And mine was just beginning to arrive. The line wrapped around the block. People, strangers, old classmates, single moms with toddlers, gray-haired couples holding hands, all waiting for a table at my place. A soft glow poured from the windows. Inside, the air smelled of rosemary, lemon, and warm bread. No velvet ropes. No reservations. Just heart. And somewhere between table 2's shared laughter and table 9's quiet tears over creme brulee, I realized I'd done it. Not the restaurant. Not the full tables or 5-star reviews. But this, creating a place where forgotten people felt seen. Mid-shift, my phone buzzed. A photo from my cousin. My parents' house. Ezra standing at the porch. Caleb in the background, pacing. Mom sitting on the steps, head in hands. Below it, they're fighting again. Mom keeps saying you should have invited them tonight. I stared at the image. The people who couldn't be bothered to show up for my dream, now aching to be part of its light. But they were no longer the fire I danced around. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. That night, as I locked the restaurant and stepped into the soft hum of city silence, I passed a woman waiting by the gate. She looked familiar. Older. Tired. Holding a wrapped box in her hands. Emery, she said. I used to babysit you. Your mom told me you opened this place. I just wanted to see it once. I opened the door again. For her. Because not every visitor from the past comes to take. Some arrive to remind you. You were always meant to rise. As she walked inside, her eyes filled with tears. And I realized, even when your family shuts the door, you can still become the kind of home others have been searching for all along. 3 weeks later, a letter arrived. No return address. Just my name, handwritten in shaky ink. Inside was a single folded sheet. Emery, we didn't realize what we were doing until you stopped answering. Until the restaurant photos started flooding the family chat. Until people kept saying, you must be so proud of her. And we had to lie. We weren't there when it counted, and I don't expect forgiveness. But if you ever decide to let us sit at your table again, we'll come early, we'll stay late, and we'll bring our own chairs. Dad. I read it once. Then again. Then I folded it neatly and placed it in the bottom drawer of my office, under receipts, old menus, and a paper flower a customer's child had once handed me. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because closure doesn't always come with a confrontation. Sometimes, it arrives when you stop waiting for someone to make it right and realize you already did. My restaurant wasn't just a business. It was a reclamation. A place where my voice wasn't drowned out by louder ones. Where I could hear myself think. Where strangers became family, not by blood, but by choice. That Friday, a woman proposed to her girlfriend at table 5. At table 3, a man reunited with a daughter he hadn't seen in 12 years. Laughter spilled through the windows like music. And I stood at the back, apron dusted with flour, tears in my eyes, not from sadness, but from stillness. Because healing doesn't scream. It whispers. It waits. And one day, you look around and realize you built a life so warm, so full, so true. You no longer have room for the ones who left you out in the cold.